Hello and welcome. I am the Restless Kaiser.
Oh, I'm James Workshop.
But together we are modelling for advantage. Well. Kursk then, James. The starter set for mid-war.
Yeah.
Soviets versus Germans, 1943. So this is the back end, the end of the mid-war, as it were. And this is the tank battle.
It is. Tank war. Muddy Russian spring.
In what was Operation Zitadelle for the Germans. What was, until very recently, regarded as the largest tank battle in history.
Very nice.
Nowadays, we think that there was a battle called Dubno, which probably was bigger, but the Germans didn't really write about it, and the Soviet archives are closed.
They are, yeah.
So we got a glimpse into it briefly, and it looks like it was bigger and earlier, but we don't know. So Kursk, is it the biggest tank battle in history? Don't know, but in this box, it's a tank battle.
Yeah, according to this box, it is.
And what is in this box then, James?
Righty-ho, well. So we have a German force and a Soviet force. If you don't know about the Battle of Kursk.
Oh yeah, 1943, east of the front. Yeah,
It comes with a complete A5 rulebook.
that's handy.
Always nice. A quick start guide. Always nice. And 11 timed unit cards. So the German force consists of a Panzer IV Late for the headquarters, and then a tank platoon which consists of one Panzer IV and two Panzer IIIs, and then a tank platoon of a pair of Panthers. And then a Tiger.
Ooh!
So the Soviet force, it consists of, for the headquarters, a T-34. For the tank platoon, three T-34s. For another tank platoon, three T-34s.
Another three says it. Yeah.
For another tank platoon, three Valentines.
Yeah. Ah!
And for the further and last tank platoon, four Su-85s.
Ooh! Yeah. Finish sorting these piles out, and we'll be right back. Right, we'll separate out the bits, so we'll look at the bits of paper and so forth. Like most of Battlefront starter sets, this is the two-player starter set, isn't it? They give you 10 dice of each colour, which is really nice. They're not specialist dice insofar as they're not got like Balkan crosses and stuff on, but they are in the colours. They are nice. And if you bought the other set, you're gonna have 20 of each of these, so you want to have a nice pile.
Might be enough for shooting with some infantry.
That's your paper. You get your lovely little instruction sheet. Now these exploded diagrams, they make these sheets specifically for the starter sets because they're from several different kits. So there may be things that you can make on these kits, and if we know beforehand, we'll tell you when we're looking at the kits. Different versions that you've not got examples of here, if that's the case, put the product code into their website and it should tell you. That's like the sprue number, so it's like BM074 or whatever. And it'll take you, look up the product on the spotlight and it'll have that in there. And then the bits of paper, you've got your quick start guide, which is your Flames of War in 5 minutes. The core rules, they call them, don't they? You don't have to read all sort of 120 pages to get going. This will get you going, but they do include a full rule book. This is the 2019 version, so it's current. And it's so good that they put this in everything. Yeah. You just give them to everyone you know.
Yeah.
If you're in Flames of War.
Need this.
Absolutely. This is not a condensed rule book.
No.
Only in scale. It is exactly the same as the hardback rule book, just smaller. Even in full colour.
Yep.
Which for a free rule book, I really appreciate it.
Still got all the history and stuff in it as well.
Yeah.
Not cut down
Absolutely.
in any way.
Absolutely. I mean, if you've been playing Flames of War for a long time, it's the same history that's been in other Flames of War books.
I mean, it did happen.
Yeah.
So if you like history, you do know what's in there.
Yeah. But they don't sort of rewrite those things over and over. Right, unit cards then. We'll take that and we'll go through them a formation at a time. I often forget to mention these cards because I always forget them. But for starters, if you've not seen one of these before, what you've basically got in Flames of War is you start with your army is made up of formations, which are really integral parts of your on-table morale. So you pick one of these kind of headline companies and your units will be mostly made up of those types, but will have options for support. Some of the support is embedded within the company and helps with force morale. And then all of your other support options are on the inside of this card. So everybody can take certain amounts of, so things like your flak 88s and so forth, they're likely to be support options. It also generally has, although not on this one because there are so many support options, they often have the movement orders on these. Yes, on the Soviet one, it's got the movement orders on the inside of it, which if you've not used before, that's a handy little reference. But anyway, let's go to... So we'll talk about the units.
Yep.
And we'll talk about the sprues as we go through.
Very nice.
So did you want to start? Did you want to mix it up and start with the Red Army, or did you want to go Nazi first?
Yeah. Interesting question.
You don't want to go Nazi. Yeah.
Right, let's start with the Soviets.
Start with the Soviets. All right, I'm going to shift this box out of the way, give me some bit of room. So the formation it's telling you to build is the T-34 Tank Battalion. T-34 Tank Battalion. So the T-34 sprue, we'll have a look at in a minute.
Yep.
But the HQ itself then, now, be ready for this. The stats, this is 1943 Soviet mainline forces, not shock forces or specialist, this is mainline forces. So your motivation is confident and your last stand, not one step back, is 3 up, which is all right. Nice. Your skill rating is green, however. So making a skill check, so green is a 5 up. But this is the bit you might not be ready for. Soviet units in this era are considered reckless, and they hit on 2s on a D6.
Yeah.
2s.
Yeah, they certainly are.
T-34 is a decent tank, however. So it's got a front armour of 6, a side and rear armour of 5, and a top armour of 1. That 76mm gun has got a 24-inch range with 2 halted and 1 moving rate of fire, anti-tank power 9, 3 up firepower. But this version is still only the 2-man turret.
Yeah.
So you've got the overworks rule. The overworks rule is one of the ways they model an undermanned turret, which means if you shoot on the move, your target number goes up by 1. Right. So it's a shooting on the move penalty. Yeah. You pay 6 points for this HQ.
You do. You do.
Because in this period, T-34 is a decent tank.
It is, yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's not a great tank, but it's by no means, it's definitely not obsolete.
No, they're pretty tough. They don't hit super well, and they're easily hit. However, they're tough, and that anti-tank 9 firepower 3+ does a lot of work.
Yeah. Really there's not much that it can't penetrate. No. So your tank battalion, the actual formation that you're going to make. So this is your headline company. You're going to have this HQ, which is 6 points with just the 1 vehicle. You're going to have 1 or 2 tank companies, and they can be T-34s, T-70s. Or late Valentines. Why are there British tanks in here? So you don't see it in most of the Soviet propaganda footage, but we sent something like 10,000 Valentines. It is the most widely produced British tank of the war, and it wasn't widely used by the British.
No, not in the slightest. No.
Vast numbers of lots of tanks were sent to Russia on Lend-Lease, but overwhelmingly Valentine. Now, it didn't see a huge amount of frontline, service, but it saw an awful lot of kind of support service,
policing,
flanks,
all that kind of
stuff. All that kind of stuff. Yeah, and second line units and what have you. You can also have an SMG company in this and an 82mm mortar company. And it's nice that you can take embedded infantry.
And I do.
That is nice. yeah. It was really useful. So that's your formation. So those 2 platoons that you're going to make here. So how many tanks does it say?
Oh, on the box, sorry.
On the box.
So there are...
What's it recommending you to build?
Oh, that's the wrong box.
That's the wrong box?
It's on the back now, man.
Oh, never mind.
And it's on the back.
Now, this is interesting.
I think it was 7.
Because the company has 1 or 2 tank companies, right? So you could have 2 T-34 companies of 3. Yeah. It's legal. But then your Valentines would be a support option.
They would, yeah.
So what you're probably going to do is you're going to take 6.
Yeah.
So T-34's 18 points for 3, but 34 points for 6. So there's a slight discount there in the numbers. But the way Flames of War morale works is you basically don't roll for morale until you're down to your last vehicle. Yeah. So 2 squads of 3, tactically flexible, but much more vulnerable to morale. Because these unit stats are not that great either. So, yeah. The T-34 then, James, T-34. While we wave the sprue at them. Well, tell us about the T-34.
Yeah, the tank or the sprue? Because I've done a lot of both.
All right, should we talk about the sprue first?
Let's talk about the sprue first.
And see what we learn about the tank.
This is an old-ass sprue. This is probably one of the earlier plastic sprues. I think they did at all.
I think so, yeah.
If I remember correctly. It is, I will politely say, serviceable.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. There's some mismatching in areas. there's nothing wrong with it, and it makes a lot of different variants. It makes every variant of the
Yeah,
T-34.
I mean, look at the number of pieces on this secondary component here.
Yeah, there's 3 different turrets for it. This is the mid-war and the late-war turret.
Yep.
The early turret is not in this box, if that was something that you were interested in. Because most
The
of mine-
really early
the
one.
really early one, yeah.
Yeah.
So most of the ones I've built are early, and yeah. So if you wanted the early ones, that's not in this box. But the matchup between the main part of the top chassis and the runner for the tracks, bit of a mismatch there.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and
Because it is keyed.
it is keyed, but they don't go together perfectly. It's fine.
Right.
The bit that I dislike the most is that there's an earlier and a later front track guard, and they're separate pieces.
Oh.
So if you look on the massive variety of accessories here, there's like a curvy one and a square one.
Right.
I think the curvy one is early and the square one's late because they worked out the whole like ramped armor thing is really good.
Well, I think the curve is just more difficult to make.
Yeah, as
Than a
well,
fold.
which isn't going to help. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they do not match up well in the slightest.
Do they not?
Basically, everyone I've ever had has been on the wonk.
Oh, really?
Which is, Soviet engineering, ha ha ha. But
I think this is pedigree, though.
Yeah, it is.
I think, so, I'm not sure, but these sprues may have different dates. Yeah.
yeah,
This part of the sprue is 2012. So this has actually replaced a whole bunch of resin and metal components
has.
for when they made resin and metal tanks. So when on a resin model, mud guards are often in metal.
yeah.
Yeah, because it's an
So
awkward
yeah, you would
shape.
have had a block resin body, and then you would have strapped this stuff on.
Yes,
which was an
absolutely.
improvement at the time, I'm sure.
Yeah, so then this has carried over when they've made this sprue. A few of their early ones. Panther is going to be similar when we look at that. These are really early plastics.
But it's good. So you get 2 different turrets.
Yeah.
If you wanted to build the 85 turret with the late tank as well, they do give you 2 pins, if I remember correctly. Yeah, they give you 2 pins. So you can completely make 2 turrets and then use them
There's
separately.
2 turret pegs.
Yeah, there's
oh,
2
there
turret
are 2
pegs
turret pegs,
for
yeah.
both turrets.
So you can straight up make the standard and the 85
And
out of the same kit.
Yeah, out of the same kit.
You
So
just-
it's a good kit. It's
2 complete
variable.
turrets, yeah.
I think it suffers very slightly for the amount of variation they were trying to fit into one sprue.
Yes.
The way I feel about it.
Yes. Because like you say, if you get an early one, there's another piece with a different turret on,
Yeah.
isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which comes with another peg. So you can actually have all 3 turrets.
Right.
Which is really cool.
Right.
No. So the T-34, they made 1 billion of them and they just threw them
Most
at
widely
everything.
produced tank in the world?
Still, I think, yeah.
Is it?
It's ridiculous.
Did Sherman make more?
I'm not sure, but T-34.
But they made thousands of these. Yeah.
Many, many, many.
And indeed, like a lot of nations at the beginning of the war, the Soviet Union has got a lot of different tank variants in service.
yes.
Lots of them. It's got the BT series. It's got the T26 series. It's got these coming in. It's got
Yeah.
KV series as well. There's a whole bunch of vehicles in service and in development, and they basically all try and mount the same gun as this thing.
They do, yeah. They're all got 76s.
They've all got 76.2mm gun.
Yeah.
I want to quickly
Which at the
realise
time, great
was a
gun.
fantastic gun. The comparable,
The longevity of the T-34 was based on the fact that they started with an already good tank.
yes, absolutely. And then they outgunned it around about this period.
Yeah.
When you mentioned him with the T-34-85, it is literally just that bigger turret and a bigger gun.
Yeah, that's all it is, yeah.
That's the only that's the only difference there. And the Germans had massive problems with dealing with these in the early part. Panther, which we'll come on to later, was designed specifically to deal with this tank.
Yeah.
That we need something that's better than this. Because stat-wise, in a lot of games, you're going to find Panzer IV has got comparable stats. But you're ignoring the fact that the Panzer IV-Es that were in service in 1942 in the German army, in the Stalingrad era, have all got the short 75. They're not comparable to this.
Nope.
They will be upgunned to this standard at the time when this is upgunned to an 85.
At the time this is upgunned to an 85, yeah.
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 But things like KV and so forth stopped being produced into this middle period.
Yeah.
Because they basically realized it's just an expensive way of firing the same gun.
KVs were super expensive. There was a KV-85 like prototype, and there was the KV-2 and all this rubbish. But basically, they made the IS-2 and they just abandoned it.
Yeah,
Like, It got used for some weird stuff like strapping mobile artillery on it and things like that. But like, other than that, it was just abandoned.
Yeah.
You get Katyushkas, which are just strapped on the back of KV chassis. And things
Oh,
like that.
right.
It's pretty cool.
A bit like the Sherman Calliope.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. T-34. I mean, you want to know about the T-34, people can talk about it for hours.
They can.
All I'll tell you is that there was the only criteria any development on T-34 after it was upgunned to 85, certainly. The only two modifications that could be made to its production cycle was either it's going to make it cheaper or it's going to build it quicker.
Yeah.
I don't care about better.
Nope.
We're not in the better game.
No.
It's already okay.
Yeah. We've got a fine tank.
Yeah. And when you think about like tooling up factories and so forth, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Don't make if you read anything about the history of stuff like the B-29 and some of those planes, it's just like they haven't even got one at this. They've got 4 different versions of the plane in the factory.
I mean, where will
the changes are being made to it all the time.
The Panzer III was probably on a J or something.
Panzer III is on a J.
Yeah.
The Panzer III we're going to look at is an N, I think.
Oof.
It's an M or an N.
God, you're nearly in the new alphabet at that point.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Now that doesn't mean that there aren't different versions of T-34.
No, of course not. There's
but they said stop tinkering with it because it
3
works.
main versions. Yeah.
Make it cheaper, or make it faster, or leave it alone. There we go.
Yeah, which transitions on nicely to the SU because they actually use the same sprue.
So this is SU-85.
So it's 85
here
and the 100.
So the sprue is, so the card that we're getting in this box, and probably for balance, it's probably important to build them as this, but we'll come to that. So how many? Oh, we didn't say you got 7 T-34s.
You got 7 T-34s, so that's 2 3-man units, 3 tank units, and then the commander.
Or 1.6.
Or 1.6.
I would go with the 1.6, by the way.
We'll see.
Get used to the big units on the Soviet side. Su-85 then, as you say, it's the same chassis.
It is. It's the same. This sprue was obviously designed with this in mind as well, because there's a barrel on here that doesn't get used for the T-34. The 100 barrel is this giant one at the top here.
Right, which is the Su-100.
Yeah, it doesn't get used on the T-34.
So this has got Fearless, but it doesn't have the better remount because it's a self-propelled gun.
Yes.
It's veteran, it's got poor assault numbers because it's a self-propelled gun, but it is careful. Different doctrine. So this is where you see, like, you get used to sort of late war British, American, German armies.
Yeah.
They're all careful. They all got some idea what they're doing. With the Soviets, you see a lot more variation in this is hit on number, but this is a vehicle that's intended to fire from cover. It's not on although we often call these assault guns, not in that like run at the other guy.
No.
It's like this is the weapon for destroying bunkers. So how many of these do we get in here?
3, I think it was.
3.
Oh, 4. Sorry.
4. So the Su-85 has got a 28-inch range as a direct fire weapon, halted and moving 2 and 1, anti-tank power of 12.
Yep.
Firepower 3 up and the forward firing limitation, which isn't really a limitation. In Flames of War, forward firing is it in front of you?
Yeah. Did they deploy it on their side of the table?
Yeah.
You're probably good.
Now, interestingly, this has come up before, and I think we've concluded in Flames of War when you fire, when you know the shooting step,
right?
There's a number of things that you do, like check for line of sight, measure range, those kind of steps. The other one is turn face.
Is that part of that?
Yes. Oh. Now, generally, what people how I've seen it done is turning turrets to face. But actually, with self-propelled guns, we tend not to move them because they don't have turrets. But I think you should.
Oh, okay. Because
you might be exposing yourself, and that might matter. And these are cheaper than turreted vehicles because they have that limitation. So it's worth thinking about. So Su-85, it's got 1 less front armour because it's got a bigger crew. It's got a bigger crew position at the front as opposed to an armoured turret. It's not unarmoured, but it isn't turret level of armour. Because I think by this stage, these T-34 turrets are cast, I think.
Yeah, they're the cast ones, these later ones.
They're the cast ones? Yeah. So you built some of these, James?
Yeah, I built a few of these. Yes, there's 2 hull tops. One is for the 85 and one's for the 100.
Yeah.
So the way that I've built them is I've built the bottom completely separate from the top, and then I just sort of blue tack them on for whichever top I want to use. So you can actually entirely build both tops.
Right.
And then just like keep the tracks separate and pop them on whenever you need them.
I've never known him play with half a tank in a game, so it must work.
It does work, definitely, yeah. I've only ever used these in tanks so far.
And they are, again, they're quite generous keying underneath, so they're going to slide into position easily.
Yeah, it's as okay as the T-34s, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. There's only minor differences between the two really anyway, unless you've really got your eyes in and you're counting rivets. between the two chassis.
The size of the gun, though, right?
It's the size of the gun, and the mounting on the gun is kind of the main big difference, which is why they've got two different tops for the sake of the different mountings.
Yeah, the mantlets are different, aren't they?
And again, it's an early roundy mudguard. And
early round, later
slopes.
slopes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, it's a T-34, but they put a crew box on it and stuck a giant gun on it.
So they're not provided you with instructions for building the Su-100, but if you follow the instructions to build the Su-85, the bits that you got left over are what you used to build the Su-100.
Also, no card.
And also no card for it. But it will build both. You need to be mindful, some people buy these kits without intending to play Flames of War. They're intended to play other systems. Because,
so that's nice.
Frankly, despite what you just said about the T-34, compared to any other 15mm miniature, when you build, if you've never built some of these tanks, get yourself one and build one and paint it. It's a really nice experience.
Yeah, I like playing tanks in this.
Nice. And I think it's why a lot of their games are so tank heavy. Is they're just fun. They're like the size of Matchbox cars. And they're really simple kits. Although because these are earlier ones, they're a little bit more complex than you usually get. But that's gonna so that Su-85 with anti-tank power 12, that's bringing up some much needed. Given the German force that we're going to look at in a minute. And you do have, as you mentioned, overlap because your tracks, your running gear, and your accessories are on this sprue for both T-34 and Su-85. So you get a whole mountain of those.
The 85 was a good gun, just plain a good gun. So it's great. They used it on this, they used it on the IS, they upgunned the T-34, same thing. All
they
the way
were still
the board.
selling T-34 85s to people in the 60s. And they still had them in the reserves. I mean, in Russia, there are these giant parks in the middle of nowhere with old T-34s and stuff in them. Presumably, they were serviceable for a period, but that was long gone. But they were notionally on reserves for a long time.
We had it recently, didn't we, where they'd somebody had put one up on a plinth for the museum, I assume in Ukraine, and they'd managed to get it running again, and they were rolling it through the streets. So they still go if you try.
They still go if you're prepared to put the work in. All right. The last thing for the Russian force in here is the Valentine, and it's the late Valentine. So this is Valentine with a 6-pounder probably. So what you've got in here though is we're going back. We're reckless again. These are given to the not pro guys. So these are confident, not one step back, and green with a 5-up. Hit on 2s as reckless. But the Valentine, despite being a bitty little thing, and it really is a small tank, it is designed as an infantry tank. It is a heavy vehicle. It's got a lot of armour, and that comes out as 6 front, 5 side and rear, 1 on the top.
Same as the T-34.
Same as the T-34, and if you take the 6-pounder, the upgun version, you've got rate of fire of 2 and 1, with 10 anti-tank power, 4 up. This is, I think it's 57mm, the 6-pounder.
Okay.
Because the British like to have different sized guns to everybody else. The option for the 2-pounder is there, but the 2-pounder has only got an anti-tank power of 7, and it's got the no HE rule. And the no HE rule is a bit grim.
What does no HE do?
No HE means infantry is even harder to hit. And the problem is, as soon as tanks need to kill infantry, it's already annoying.
It's already a bad situation.
Yeah, absolutely. But it does have machine guns? It does have machine guns for 3 and 3 dice. It's got the overwork problem with only having a 2-man crew.
With the 6-pounder. Yeah, that's the benefit of the 2-pounder. The only one is that it's not overworked.
But it's cheap. At 3 points a model, you get 3 of these for 9 points. But you know,
the 6-pounder loses the MG as well.
Does it take up the space?
Yeah,
because it's a coaxial MG.
And costs an additional
point. But as a mid-war vehicle, go from an anti-tank power of 7 up to 10. That shifts you from only dealing with the early stuff or the weak stuff to I can have a go. Like you say, this T-34, they've got 6s. You also get a dice on top of your armour. So the 2-pounder cannot harm T-34 and probably many of the German vehicles. You get 3 of those. Nice mixture. Remembering, some people might regard the Valentine as an unusual thing to slot in there, but there really were, especially in the mid-war, vast amounts of these Lend-Lease tanks at a time when the Soviet Union was getting through a lot of equipment. By 44, the lack of uniformity is more of a problem.
Yeah.
They got so many different sort of supply issues that these kind of get pushed out into other formations.
Which they're starting to resolve because their main battle tank, their heavy battle tank, and their anti-armor artillery all using the same gun.
yeah. So when you got a few of these in the formation, it's going to cause you problems.
Yeah, definitely.
Taking a couple of Valentines in. But, there's still an army facing the Japanese. Although it's not fine. There's still an army on the Finnish border that's relatively, these things are still in service in the Russian forces. It's just something different. I think it's a nice inclusion.
Yeah, it is.
So that's the Soviets. How many points was that going to be then? That was going to be, just for anyone to see, it's sometimes interesting to see how different the points are from how balanced the forces are. So 6 there.
If we go for 6 T-34s,
Yeah.
that's 62 plus 9, so 71 plus 48 because of the 4 Su-85s. So now you're seeing our math skills. 119 points.
Because these are powerful tanks.
Yeah.
For the period, which for comparison, we forgot to mention in the video with the infantry, the box starts
30
at
points.
something like 30 points. Yeah, there's a lot of plastic in there.
And a lot more painting.
A lot more painting. 119, you say?
Yeah, something like that.
Well, there's a Tiger, so that probably is comparable to the Germans.
Yeah, true.
Right, back in a sec. Right, so as we look at the Germans then, there's some big cats in here, mate.
There's some big rats.
Especially for this period. So this is Kursk. This is Operation Citadel. This is the tank battle of 1943. Germans have been preparing all summer for this.
Yep.
They've delayed, well, not all summer, all spring and into summer. This is their summer offensive of the year. And you think about when do things start going badly for the Germans in the Eastern Front? Well, in 1941, they advanced across about 1,000 miles across the entire front.
1941, I think.
In 1942, they advanced just in the south, significantly less distance, and it ends at Stalingrad. In 1943, they're going to fight one battle in one part of the line. So you're seeing this huge shrinking of the offensive power. Most of the German generals in their memoir reckon that Germany should have stayed on the strategic defensive in 43. But they said a lot of things in their memoirs which were good ideas with hindsight. We're pretty confident they were fairly confident about Citadel. But we also know that Hitler wasn't. He was very nervous about it. Because the delays of getting Tiger and Panther out, which not unreasonably they thought they were going to be game changers.
Yeah.
It's not just that these are new tanks and more powerful tanks, but they're also the tanks we're building now. So we're going to have to wait for them. There's still gaps in all of our Panzer divisions. It's not, we could have gone earlier with Panzer IV. I said, well, yes, but you'd have gone earlier with a lot less tanks. So getting these delivered, getting the training done, and there were all kinds of problems would come because of that. But this is for mid-war. This is the right at the back end of mid-war. So the points values and the power of these vehicles is going to be reflected in that. And what I like about that is it means that all the things that are in here are different from what we just got in the North Africa sets. North Africa set's very much 41, 42.
Right. Okay.
This is firmly 43.
Excellent.
You fight in Sicily with this equipment.
Right. Okay.
It's the same kind of force. So the formation it's telling you to build is a Panzer III and IV late mixed Panzer Company HQ.
Okay.
These German cards are going to get a bit complicated because you can mix in various types of Panzer IIIs and IVs, I think.
Is that why the box just tells you to make 4s?
Yeah. So
Don't do
the
it.
box tells you. So according to the box, what's expecting you to build is for your headquarters company is a single Panzer IV late. So the Panzer IV late sprue. Anyone who's got hit the beach set, which is the most common thing to have bought, this is the late Panzer IV.
Okay.
What you got on the late Panzer IV, it's nice. You got 2 different sets of skirts. One is a bit dinged up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, with a plate. This is a really nice kit to build, really easy to put together. It's got the skirts. There are a couple of fiddly parts on it. The bit to really watch for is over here. It's the belly machine gun, the bow machine gun.
Okay.
You want to cut this with a very sharp blade or you will snap it. But it is nice. And so you got the skirts on there and you do get the skirts special roll. Skirt special roll is an interesting mechanic. Have you got the card in front of you?
Yeah, I got it in front of me, yeah.
Bazooka skirts.
Yeah.
Side armor is 5 against infantry with firepower of 5 up.
Instead of 3 in this case.
Instead of 3.
Right.
Because the way that they've modelled infantry anti-tank weapons have all got a 5. So I think that's anti-tank rifles, Panzerschreck, bazooka, stuff like that. They've given them all a 5-up.
Right, okay.
And then any really low caliber guns might have a 5-up as well. So it's modelling that. Because the thing about bazooka skirts, or Scherzen, is the spaced armour, we know it was effective against bazookas, but that's not actually what it was designed to do.
What was it designed to do?
It was designed to stop Russian anti-tank rifles.
Oh, okay.
The thing with those anti-tank rifles, the PTRD, the Russians used lots of them, is it's not going to disable the tank, but it might disable the crew inside the tank. Yeah. So anything that could get that bullet to start tumbling before it hit the armour.
Right.
So an anti-tank rifle does what you would expect it to do. It's a rifle that'll go through the side of a tank.
Punches holes.
And it's put a rifle bullet-sized hole in the tank. Might hit something important. There's not a lot of space in a tank.
No.
That doesn't have either stuff or dudes in it.
And it's probably not going out the other side.
No, it's gone rattling around inside there until it finds something warm and soft to lodge itself in. So if they can get the bullet to start tumbling, but that's what the bazooka skirts are for.
Oh, okay.
Turned out that these were really useful against shaped charges as well. But it's actually the Eastern Front they're developed for, which is why we'll see a Panzer III version with the skirts as well.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it's not just the side skirts, it's also got turret skirts on as well, which is really nice. Yep, so you take a mixed Panzer Company HQ, that's this.
Right.
You then have to have one mixed or Panzer IV only tank platoon.
Yep.
And then you have to have another mixed or Panzer IV or Panther tank platoon, and then you can have optionally another Panzer III, IV or Tiger platoon, and another Panzer III, IV or Flame Panzer. So the Flame Panzer, I can't remember which chassis that. It's on the 3. It's on the Panzer III.
It's T-34, isn't it? The KV had one as well.
Flamethrower.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking which version of the German tank is the
I know.
Panzer. I think it's on the Panzer III. So yeah, this tank then, great stats. It's hit on 4s. It's confident, but it's got protected ammo and good last stand rating of 3-up. It's got veteran skill levels, so it's going to reliably pass those movement orders. Tactical move at 10, which most tanks, you're going to find it rare that anything goes faster than 10, because that's what Flames of War models is like. This is as fast as you can go, and a human being can still keep an idea of what's going on. Faster than that, you're really just moving too fast to track.
Like a T-34.
Like a T-34, yeah. But the gun is significantly better, I think, because the Panzer IV Late 7.5, you got a 32-inch range compared to
24.
24 on the T-34.
T-34, yeah, 24.
Yeah. So
extra 8 inches is a lot in this game.
It really is, especially when you start 2 foot apart. And I suppose that's probably to do with superior optics and stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe.
An anti-tank power of 11 and a firepower of 3-up.
You're sighting the barrel on a T-34 by taking out the chamber and having a look.
And it's got 6.3 and 1 armour. So this outperforms the T-34
for sure.
But the main way it outperforms it is this is hitting a 4. And that T-34 is hitting a 2. That's a significant performance difference.
It's significant.
So the mixed company, the mixed platoon, so the platoon you're going to make is going to consist of 1 Panzer IV and 2 Panzer IIIs.
Do they both? Sorry, I've just spotted a rule. Stormtroopers.
Every German unit seems to get stormtroopers.
Oh, okay,
which is why I've not mentioned it. Stormtrooper rule is like a German national rule.
Right.
Is you can make 2 movement orders instead of 1.
Brutal. Okay.
But even if you've got veterans, you pass a movement order on a 3-up.
Yeah.
Statistically, you're going to fail it if you make 2 every turn. You're going to fail 1 of them.
Yeah, probably.
You fail 1 in 3.
Yeah.
And if you fail a movement order, you're usually a bit boned.
Yeah, reroll 3rd is about half. Yeah, you're about half chance of failing. Yeah.
But it does mean, for example, that German units can blitz out of cover, take a shot, and then do the shoot and scoot option and go back into cover.
Yeah.
But odds are that some of those units will fail some of the time. So this mixed Panzer unit is basically you buy a Panzer III and then you pay upgrade points. So you you pay 5 points for each Panzer IV.
I love that the overly complicated German style of making tanks is translated very well into this game.
Absolutely, there are so many different versions on here. So you can switch. So you take 3, 4, or 5 Panzer IIIs.
Nice.
And in this case, you're going to take 3, and you're going to upgrade one of them to your Panzer IV. Mm-hmm. And that's easy. Upgrade to a Panzer IV late is 5 points.
Nice.
But your Panzer III lates, they're the late 5 centimetre. So if you build the standard late one, you're going to use the longest gun. This sprue builds lots of different Panzer IIIs. What you've got on here is the short 50, or short 5 centimetre.
Yep.
The long 5 centimetre.
Okay.
And then the short 75. The last version of this vehicle actually goes down to a short-barreled howitzer.
Oh, cool.
Because its role as a gun tank has been superseded by this model of Panzer IV.
Right, okay.
Early war, pre-war, Panzer III is the gun tank, Panzer IV is the support vehicle, but it's got a bigger turret ring and slightly better load-bearing performances.
Yeah.
So as the war goes on, actually this gets ditched as a gun tank, whereas this carries on because it can just take a little bit more.
I'm kind of surprised they bothered. I guess they needed the tanks, because the Stug's just like, that's what that is.
Right, so they don't build many of these with the howitzers because the Stug is built on the same chassis.
Yeah.
So these are built in the hundreds,
Right.
not the thousands.
Which is nearly zero as far as tanks are
in
concerned.
terms of tank production is near zero, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is your basic Panzer III sprue, but you also get, to make this later war version, you get on here this one. So this has got your skirts on again. It's got a different rear engine compartment bit, and this, I believe, is because this long gun here is actually for the flame tank.
Oh,
and I think that's that's like a fuel flame canister or something at the back.
interesting.
So the turret here, as again, if you're going to use the spaced armour, but you've got that option. This vehicle doesn't exist in an earlier period, so this upgrade sprue, this is the last component for the Panzer III.
Gotcha.
Am I making sense?
I'm sure someone understands.
So someone understands. someone understands. Yeah, so I would encourage you to make the standard late Panzer III. Because that's what you've got the cards for.
Excellent. And that's what the box tells you to do. What I'm hearing so far is do what the box tells you.
I think you want to do that because you haven't got cards for other things. Yeah. If you're a collector, you already have a collection, you already know all of these things, you don't need me to tell you.
Cool.
But if you're interested in making all those different versions from a modelling perspective, go look at the Panzer III Late box set on the Flames of War website, and the spotlight there, they'll have the build instructions for all the different versions. Whereas in here, it's only giving you the ones that are useful for this period. Interestingly, it's telling you the 5 centimetre, the flamethrower, and the 7.5 centimetre. So is the flamethrower on here? No, it's not. It's not.
Okay.
It'll tell you how to build one, but
not give you the option.
Not give you the stats for it on the card.
Cool.
Is that 2012?
It's an oldie too. Yeah. Battlefront Miniatures 2012. At least the track bit is. The top bit is.
No,
2019.
that's Panther's tracks.
Is it?
Yeah. You've got that.
This is a Panther.
Yeah. This is 2016, the Panzer III, which is their mid-war release part. But the I'm saying late war, it's a mid-war, but it's a late Panzer III.
Right, okay, yeah.
This upgrade is 2018.
Okay, cool.
Hopefully we didn't confuse you too much with that, as we got confused.
Yeah, no, I got confused. You were fine.
The way that they have modelled the Panzer IIIs and IVs is confusing because they've not broken it down. Panzer III DE has got this stat line.
Right, okay, yeah.
F has got this stat line. GHI has got this stat line, which a lot of other games would do. Is actually you pay points for what those different bits do.
Cool.
which makes it difficult to follow when people are just spouting numbers at
Germany, 1943. We need a chat. Can you just slow down?
Well, yeah, they're just going to build Panther now. It's all fine. All right, so that's those two, but then we get into the big cats.
Okay, the fun stuff. Rhea, meow, etc.
Meow, etc. Yeah. All right. So which one do you want first?
Let's go with the Panther because it's slightly less exciting.
Let's go with Panther.
And I know which one it is now.
You know which one it is now. So the Panther. So you remember like you said with when we looked at T-34.
Yeah.
So you found this part of the sprues earlier.
Right. 2012. Yeah.
Yeah. This has been made to sort of replace resonant metal parts.
Okay, cool.
Whereas
and eventually they came in.
And then eventually they came in with this to make this.
2019.
Yeah. So this is I think Panther D. This is an early Panther. Oh no, this is Panther A on here actually.
Okay, cool.
Ah, right, yeah.
It's still got the anti-fire stuff on it, which is.
It's got the anti-magnetic paste.
Right.
But no, this is the Normandy stuff. Panther. Germany likes to be complicated. There's 3 versions of Panther.
Cool.
D, A, and G in that order.
Do you like dags?
Dags. I think it's the companies that made them.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Know the names.
Yeah.
But you think is it not A, D, G? No, D, A, G. That's the order.
Yeah.
The A is the middle one. It's actually more Normandy than 1943, but it's probably that it's an easier kit to build.
Cool.
It's probably why they provided you with this one.
Yep.
It's not that it's wrong necessarily. I'm not sure which ones were at Kursk, but this kit, this part of it, very easy to put together.
Yeah, it looks it.
You're literally just slotting the upper to the lower hull.
Barely any parts.
Very few extra parts. Yeah. Turret peg, and you've got your what looks like an entrenching beam.
8 bits.
At the back there, 8 bits there. This is a little bit more involved, but most of it isn't necessary.
No,
a lot of the components on here are from old resonant metal kits that didn't have things like mudguards built into their and turret cupolas and so forth. It's a legacy item. You have got on here, as well as the gun for Panther, you've got the gun for Jagdpanther on here.
That's a big gun.
That is a big gun, yeah, which you won't be using.
No.
The bit you need to be careful with here is I mentioned the Panzer IV belly machine gun.
Yeah.
If you look, there's like a ball turret.
Yeah.
Next to one of the main guns.
Yep.
And not only is it very thin, it's the way that the gates hold onto the barrel. Is you need a really sharp knife.
Yeah.
To get that off without snapping it.
You're going to pinch it and it'll push in one direction.
And although there's 2, one has got Zimmer and one does not.
Yeah.
They're actually for 2 different. So there is a spare.
Really, are they not the same thing, but one of them's textured?
Yes.
Right.
But considering the surface of the tank you're going to put it on is textured.
I need glasses to look at it anyway.
Yes. We'll bother different people different amounts.
That's true.
So there's a little bit of practice space in there. But yeah. But cool. This was quite an easy kit to build. And Panther as a vehicle then. These are new crews.
Right, okay.
These are very little training.
I know what that means.
So they are skill rating green. They're motivated still. They're confident 4 and they got last stand of 3 up. But they're aggressive, not careful. So they hit on 3s. Front armor of 9 is solid. Side 5, top 1. This is a 7.5 centimeter gun, but it's a very high velocity one.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So it's got an anti-tank power of 14 and a 3-up firepower.
Cool.
So, but you know, a pair of them is 36 points. I mean, we on a 4x4 foot table, we normally play 75-point games. Standard for Flames of War is about 100. 2 of them is half of your army.
Yeah. The firepower cannot fail.
No.
It literally can't fail.
Against any of those tanks.
Anything.
No. You don't have to make an anti-tank check.
No.
It's
just done.
Just straight through.
Yeah.
Just straight through. Panther is a really interesting tank in terms of what we call it. You know, is it a light tank? Is it a heavy tank? Is it a medium tank? Is it a main battle tank?
Depends what force you're asking, I'm guessing.
Depends who you ask it. And actually, the Germans just tended to classify the tanks by weight. It's a 30-ton tank. It's a 20-ton tank. But in terms of its deployment, Panther is not a heavy tank. Panther is a replacement for Panzer III.
Right, so it's just a medium tank. But
it's a medium tank in terms of role, but a lot bigger than anybody else's medium tank. Yeah, absolutely. But Panther's design is skewed largely after meeting those. There's problems with some of the things like the Shahs, the heavy French tanks that they come up in 1940, and then they come up against T-34 and say, actually, this 50mm gun can't go through the normal tanks where we're not. There aren't large numbers of T-34s in 41.
No.
But there are in 42, but more importantly, they're the tanks that they're building lots of now. They're the ones we're seeing increasing numbers of.
And you end up hearing the stories of whole tank battalions being held up by one group of idiots in a KV-1. And things like that.
And so Panther is around to deal with that. And by 1944, the table of organisation for a Panzer division, 2 tank battalions, one is Panzer IVs and one is Panthers.
Right.
This is the intended formation strength. So Panther, despite being a colossal tank for many skirmish war games, is a mainline tank, and thousands of them are built. Yeah, and if the war had gone on longer and better for Germany, there would have been more of them still. This is what they were building to replace their existing stocks.
Do I have memories of this having reliability issues?
At Kursk, it had massive reliability problems. Because Kursk has been delayed for these guys to arrive.
It's the first ones off the trains, basically.
The guys, and their stats reflect it. They've had very little training.
And aggressive.
And there's all kinds of problems with it. I mean, if you look, it's got interleaved road wheels. And the problem with the interleaved road wheel is you've got to take a lot of wheels off to deal with a damaged wheel.
It had a weird suspension system and all sorts of stuff, didn't it?
All kinds of experimental problems. It just isn't... It's you hear the term over-engineered. I apologise for mopping my brow. It's a really hot weather here in the UK at the moment. We've been here in this room for a little while. It's getting a bit funky.
At least 19 out there. It's ridiculous. No, it's 30
you hear the term over-engineered is a little bit overused when describing German tanks, but it's not entirely untrue. But certainly at Kursk, if you built these in peacetime conditions, there would have been another year of testing. You know, but because they're waiting for these vehicles for the offensive, they're rushed even more than is normal for World War II. And those reliability issues are being ironed out in the field in real time. But yeah, Panther, solid vehicle, but stats reflect the relative inexperience of it.
Front armour 9 and anti-tank 14, I think you probably could just sit there for a bit. Don't worry about your tracks too much.
yes, you can get into position. Oof. Last vehicle here is Tiger.
Tiger.
A vehicle so powerful you can take them in a platoon of 1.
With escorts.
It's 30 points to take 1, but you can keep it company with a single Panzer III for is it 8 points?
8 points, yeah.
You can have a Panzer III follow it around, and the loss of that Panzer III doesn't count for morale.
Oh, cool.
You get special rules with Tiger around that. So, because the way formation morale works with Flames of War, you test morale when you're down to 1 tank. So if taking that Panzer III with you, when it dies, the Tiger might run off the table.
That feels morally
I'm not having that. I'm not having that. Yeah. So Tigers were they weren't in the mainline Panzer divisions. Let's talk about the stats and then we'll...
Can we go back to that escort tank just for 1 second?
Yeah.
Just the wording, because of the way that the rules are written.
All right.
Ignore bailed out or destroyed Panzer III tanks when determining if the unit is in good spirits.
Yeah. It's a key word for that.
Oh, it's gone.
For the rules.
Ah, well. I'm still feeling good.
I'm all right. So, Tiger, why is she so powerful? Well, she's got a motivation of 4, but she's got last stand and remount ratings of 2 up.
Very good.
Veteran skill rating 3+, and she's careful. Front armour is 9. Bearing in mind you add a dice to this. Side armour is 8. And top armour is 2. Okay. So, artillery... generally is that what's going to attack you with top armour? Artillery
and planes
and good artillery has got an anti-tank rating of 3. If your top armour is 2 plus a dice, you can't be destroyed by that either, and you've got a remount rating of 2, so you're not terribly worried about bailed out. And then of course you've got that 8.8 centimetre, 40 inches of range, 2 and 1 rate of fire. Anti-tank 14, firepower 3 up. You'll notice that's the same as Panther.
Same profile as the Panther.
And actually, arguably, Panther's gun was actually slightly better in performance. Okay. But the Tiger's got an anti-aircraft gun that they realised this is a really high velocity, quite a big shell. This can kill anything. So Tiger's using an existing gun that was designed for a different role.
Right, yeah.
Panther has got what's the best anti-tank gun we can make now, and some of the performance characteristics, they come out as having the same stats. I think, like, you know, the range on the Tiger might be slightly longer, but the penetration at 700 yards is slightly better on. It
comes out in the wash.
Yeah. But it's arguably a better gun, despite being smaller.
Logistically, obviously, this is
this is a gas guzzler, and just exactly why Germany was fighting a war for control of oil thought, we need a gas guzzling monster to get there. So again, maybe we need these after we get there, but yeah, not indestructible, but nearly in the period.
It is against what you're fighting,
It is against what you're fighting, certainly in this box. Its points do reflect it, though.
29.
It's nearly as much as a pair of Panthers, which is similar. But the big difference between this and Panther, you're seeing in those stats, is the difference you're seeing. These German tanks is the crew that are in them. Tigers are in separate battalions of heavy tank battalions. They're pretty much always SS.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure on that, or they're attached to SS formations, but they're veteran crews. So whereas Panther is a new mainline tank, it gets new guys in there on a new vehicle. It's really different. Not in every case, but in most cases. Whereas Tiger, they take a successful tank crew from an SS Panzer formation and stick them in a Tiger.
Stick it in the best thing you've got going.
Yeah, so there's a level of homogeneity already there. And the stats really reflect it. And why am I saying this thing? Says, well, because the stats are so very similar that it's nice that in a game that's not all that granular like Flames of War, they're able to put real differences between these two vehicles.
Definitely.
By looking at the crew differences, and the approaches to that. I mean, the substantial difference with Panther is the sides are thinner.
Yeah, I was going to say, faced on, these two tanks are basically exactly the same, with the exception of the crew. Yeah, it's a huge difference, which is nice. Yeah,
which is nice to see.
Really, really good.
And the sprue for Tiger,
massive
sprue, massive vehicle, but it's not as long as you might think. Tiger, it's very boxy. Which is why,
on this sprue as well, let's be honest.
Which I think why Tiger is so iconic. Not only has he got a great name, who doesn't think Tigers are cool? And I don't just mean tanks.
You're right.
I mean the orange stripy things in the jungle, right? Tiger's awesome. But a boxy, it looks like a tank, right? It looks like a menacing tank.
There's not much that looks similar to a Tiger, that sort of flat frontage, big ass gun on the front of it. Yeah.
So in terms of the sprue, I've built a couple of Tigers. It's a little bit cheaty, this sprue, because what you wouldn't know, if you run your fingers down the sides of the sprue, you'll notice it's been cut.
A bit missing, yeah.
There's a bit missing. Well, it's not really missing, they're just clever. Is in the design of this sprue, the bit in the middle is pieces of Tiger that are common to all theatres. And then on this side, you have the early war version, and on this side, you have the late war version. But this size fits in a box.
Gotcha.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you don't need this.
Yeah.
But so if you get a late war Tiger box, it's going to be like this, but with this different side. And that's so that the turret surfaces and skirts, on the later ones, they've got Zimmer it on.
It looks like it's been computer designed to be this big, but then they only printed this bit. It's not.
But can you not feel the cut?
It's not cut off. No, if you look at it, it's still got mold lines running across the little divots. Yeah.
Oh, you might be right.
So yeah, it looks like it's been computer designed all as one big piece, and then they've made two separate molds.
Right.
Interesting.
Tiger, even bigger problems than Panther, weighs a lot more. But it did have experienced tankers in them. Yeah. The main cosmetic difference, as I say, is the later one you're going to find has got the anti-magnetic coating on it. It's got some Zimmerit texturing, but also these desert filters or dust filters. Okay. This big V-shaped thing goes on the back of the engine deck. Yeah. It's entirely optional, and they did use them in Russia. Yeah, there's a lot of sand in the desert, but there's a lot of dust in Russia, especially in the summer. So it's right to have them and to not have them. Okay, both examples
there's nothing
exist.
Wrong with either.
There's nothing wrong with either. Yeah. No.
It's chunky. It's real chunky.
It's a nice chunky tank. Yeah. Now, normally, I'm not a big fan of having 10 different types of tank in a box. Because it's difficult on the Swede. as a player, in terms of like who this box is for, obviously it's a starter set.
Yeah.
And to rate it as a starter set, it's like learn to play Flames of War.
Yeah.
I think it's attractive because of all of those different German tank versions, but I think it's not such a good idea.
Well, there you go. Here's one example of each of the tanks available to the Germans, and there's the Russians.
Of one of each.
One of each. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's way simpler.
The German tanks are much more. There's a lot to look. Now, if you're a grognard, you're going to love that. You have the option to build many versions of these tanks. You understand it?
Yeah.
But as a start set, now as a set that's authentic, these are the right period vehicles, and they could easily muck around with that a little bit. And just to give you the stuff that they want rid of, just call it Kursk and actually have just some tanks in it.
Yeah.
But also, because you've got this transition period as they're bringing in Panther and they're bringing in Tiger, but you've still got things like Panzer IIs in service. You've still got not many, and some of those Czech tanks, not the Hetzer, but the P-38.
Yeah.
PT-38? That feels wrong.
Whatever. Anyway, well, that one, you know what we're talking about.
But some Czech tanks in service, but in particular, you've still got a lot of Panzer IIIs and IVs. And then you've got these newer, much more powerful tanks. And actually, the instructions, I think it was Guderian issued these instructions, was they were to fight in wedges. And they were to put the powerful tanks at the front and the weak tanks at the back.
Yeah.
And inside the arrow. So it is actually doctrine to fight with a mixed tank platoon.
Right.
That is what they did.
Yeah.
It just can be complicated to execute. Not so much the Panther and the Tiger, they got their own cards. But when you come to these Panzer IIIs and IVs, you've got many different versions. What your thoughts on it as a set?
It's interesting. I think if you are in any way an invested Soviet player, there's nothing new in this box for you.
No.
If you're a brand new player, then there's a reason why, as an invested player, you have all of these things. They're necessary.
Yes.
T-34s is the bread and butter of every force that you're ever going to build.
Yeah.
So, from beginning of the war to the end of the war.
You may not be overjoyed about the Valentines.
No.
As an existing player, you might think, well, I don't have any of them. But you might. Most Soviet players are quite purist. They tend to only have Lend-Lease stuff if it's better.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
As opposed to Lend-Lease stuff that isn't as good.
I don't have any Valentines.
There you go.
And I've never played with them.
But I think the appeal of this box to the existing collector remains decent in that there's another 7 T-34s. It's not like you don't need them.
Every box set that they make has 7 T-34s. When we opened up the Stalingrad box set and there weren't 7 T-34s in it, I was like, this is unusual.
It's not right.
There's something wrong here. The variety in German tanks confuses the hell out of me, and I'm glad I don't play them.
But to a German tank, to a guy with a German collection, they probably have some of each of these, but not all of them.
True. Yeah.
And they're very different tanks to what came in the Africa Corps sets, which again is nice. That's the later Panzer IV and the later Panzer III. Although there's common pieces, they are actually different units.
Okay. As a combination, the Stalingrad box and this box, you're done. Kinda, to be honest.
Oh, definitely.
That's basically every force you're ever going to build in the mid-war. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Unless you wanted a storm group or something else for the Germans.
Yeah, depending on how deep you want to go down that. But they're nice.
Get together with a mate, buy both these boxes, buy one more box of something that they're missing, and that's you. That's
absolutely.
You're playing Flames of War.
I mean, just buying one of these, but it's going to take you a while to paint anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye. Hello. If you're enjoying our Flames of War content and considering getting one of the starter sets or starter armies, why don't you think about buying one from our online web store at modelingforadvantage.co.uk. Thank you.
Oh, boy.
Oh, you've not seen that card before? No. Yeah, you thought KV was expensive. Check this out.
Yeah.